Okay, this is my first ever Facebook live chat. It'll be Q&A with a talk about letting go of old belief patterns. So we'll start with the lecture and then we'll go into the Q&A as people come into the chat or decide to come in. What does that mean, old belief patterns? What are we letting go of? So some things that I've been doing in my life to work on this and to better myself are journaling. Journaling is an excellent way to work on old thought patterns and beliefs and let go of them. And the way to do that is deconstructing old belief patterns and thoughts. So I'm going to try and give three examples of that and break them down. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat as I go along. Um, so we're going to start with anger. We'll talk about fear, and we'll talk about let's see. So anger, fear, and then like relationships. Those are three situations that you can find yourself in that would actually that are better to be broken down, and when you do some self-analysis you can see through them and help correct those negative belief patterns. So one is relationships. Okay, let's start with relationships. That's an easy one. I feel like most people can probably relate to that. Now, what does that mean when we're talking about old patterns and beliefs? Think about all the relationships you've been in, whether it's just a handful or whether it's a lot of them. I feel like for most people, we can all identify regular patterns that we run into. We might date the same type of people. We might have the same beliefs about those people. So if you've got pen and paper, this is better. You can write it out and you can go with it. But if not, then just paint a visual picture for yourself about what that's going to look like. So for me, one thing that I was aware of when I was dating people before I got married, I ran into the same kind of people. And one thought pattern that I always had all the time was that I was afraid that people were going to cheat on me and that I wouldn't have a healthy, stable relationship with somebody because I was afraid that they were going to cheat on me at some point, right? And when we deconstruct that, why did I think that way? Why did I have that thought pattern of belief? Because growing up and through my life, I had seen these things happen in my life to people around me, or in books or movies and TV. And those thought patterns that I would develop as a child would actually reinforce thought patterns and beliefs that I would have as an adult. So the belief that somebody was always going to cheat on me. When I was in the military doesn't have a very good success rate with marriages in the military. That's been proven. There's a pretty high statistic of what that looks like. So being in the military while I was dating people, I always had that in the back of my mind. So anytime I dated a new person, I always ran the risk of them cheating on me or them not wanting to be around me. So because I already had that imprinted in my brain, even though that may not be what I was intending, that was always the thought pattern I would go into a relationship with. And because of that, I allowed that to twist my thoughts around and maybe see things from a different perspective that may not have actually been true. So, a good one is, let's talk about like cheating, right? We believe that somebody might be cheating on us when in reality that's not happening. It might not even be close to happening. You might be deeply in love with somebody, but it's your own perception, it's your own mind that's telling you that something is wrong. So in the moment, for me, I always had to do reflection afterwards. I was not very good at taking care of this in the moment. So in reflection, what I learned from myself is that I was afraid. I was afraid that somebody wouldn't like me or that somebody wouldn't want to be with me in the relationship. And because of that thought and belief, I allowed it to carry into other relationships that I had. So, how do we overcome this? When you talk to your partner, communication is important. We've all talked about this. But not just communication, but truthful communication. Actually ask the questions. You'll never know the answers unless you actually communicate with somebody about what you're feeling and thinking. I never once had this conversation with somebody that I was dating, like, hey, how do you feel about this? What are your actual intentions about us being together? I know that seems kind of silly, but if you ask the question, you get an answer. Whether it's the one you're looking for or not the one you're looking for, at least now you know, and you can help let go of some of the feelings you might have about the relationship. So that's an easier one to deconstruct, but it's easier said than done when it's actually in practice. Okay, now let's talk about anger. Most of us can think or find a time when we were angry with somebody, maybe even something stupid like at work, right? That's one that I deal with on a regular basis. People come into work and they just get mad at you because you're either like a customer service person or you're retail. It's just you're somebody that you're the front end of that business where somebody can come in and really just lay it on you because they're angry and upset about something that may not have anything to do with you. Okay? Deconstructing that feeling is going to be beneficial and helpful for you. I had to do this for myself where I work, and at first it was very difficult. Coming from the military, I had a very aggressive mentality, and my thought process is, well, why don't people just do what they're told? Right? When I'm working with employees and maybe they're not showing up on time or they're not following the rules the way I want them to. In the military, you have to follow the rules and you are on time no matter where you are. But that thought pattern, belief system that I had, I carried on even after the military. And that was my problem, my perceptional problem. And it took me a while to become aware of it. And then people coming into the job, coming into the work as members, right? I would get frustrated with them when they would disrespect me or talk down to me. Well, how dare they talk to me? I'm a soldier, I'm a veteran, like I've been to Afghanistan. How dare anyone talk to me this way? And that is wherein lies the problem. The ego identity that you're falling suit to, it's a trap. And when you fall into these traps, it's very difficult to find yourself getting out of them. But it's a negative feedback loop that we allow ourselves to get embedded with and fall into all the time. Whether it's being angry or being afraid or being in a relationship, whatever it is, we do this to ourselves all of the time. And the way that we can learn to live with this, because there's no eradicating it, you're not going to be able to do anything that's going to stop this from happening. But what you can do is you can nurture your thought process. You can actually take the time to think about what you're going to say before you say it and correcting old beliefs and thought patterns with happy, positive thoughts. And it'll correct the way that you typically think about things, right? So, people who've listened to my podcast, I sometimes get very spiritual and very woo woo about things, right? But you don't have to think spiritually or woo woo about the things I'm saying. There's plenty of books and there's plenty of studies about communication and rewiring your thought patterns and beliefs. That's been proven with science that if you do things for 21 days, you can correct a negative pattern with a positive pattern. So, this is theoretically what I'm implying. We correct our thought patterns and beliefs from negative by shifting them to positive, expanding, loving thoughts. And if you can do that and carry that on, you will transcend the negative thoughts and feelings that you have. No matter how you want to see it, whether it's a spiritual aspect of yourself or just the mental aspect of yourself. This is possible. You can do this if you practice it enough. So let's go back to the angry. We have this person getting in front of you. They're aggressive from the get-go. You don't even have a chance to defend yourself. You're just instantly engaged in the flight or fight response, right? This is where I struggle. This is what has always been a struggle for me. Out of the three things I'm going to talk about, this has been the most hard for me to overcome. And why? Because I get defensive right away. When people come up to me and they want to start talking to me like that or have like a negative attitude or try to belittle me or treat me in a condescending manner, I get defensive. And the reason I know that I get defensive is because of my patterns of growing up. When I was a young kid, I got bullied. And when I grew up to be older, I wanted to be a soldier. I wanted to be a cop. I wanted to be something like that because I wanted to take back that part of me and I wanted to be in control of my life. And I thought being a soldier meant being a really strong individual and serving and doing all these things. Yes, lovely, wonderful, but they were all just part of an illusion that I was telling myself. So now, fast forward, I've become the soldier. I'm doing these things. When I was in the military, I had to learn quickly that if you're a soft, easygoing person, you're not going to make it very far. I had to train myself to be an aggressive, condescending type of person. The very person that I was trying to protect myself from, I ended up becoming because of my surroundings. And how ironic is that, right? But these things that we're talking about, these are all life lessons. You can learn from these situations, you can learn from these experiences in your life, and you don't have to fall suit each and every time you live them. Something that helps with this is meditation. I've talked about meditation a lot, but the whole point of meditation is to observe your thoughts, realizing that you are not your thoughts. So let's play this out. You're in a position where somebody comes up to you and is starting to be aggressive and starting to condescend you and be really negative, and you don't even have an opportunity to defend yourself. What are the thoughts you're having in that situation? Who does this guy think he is, or gal? Why am I listening to this person? Any number of thoughts. But here's the thing, you do not have to play into those. You can allow them to simply pass through your thoughts. You don't have to react. Even if the person is yelling at you so hard that spit is flying out of their mouth onto your face, you don't have to react if you don't want to. When you have control of this, you take back your energy, you take back your thought patterns, and you can actually overcome these problems that we face in everyday life. And the more that you do it, the easier it'll become because, again, like I was talking about, rewiring your brain to fix these negative thought patterns and beliefs. Every person is capable of doing this. Because we have the choice of free will, that means that we have the ability to choose in every moment, this moment, the next moment, the next moment. We choose what we want to do, what we can and cannot do. It's almost as if God, whether you believe in God as a person in the sky or God as an eternal present in everything around us that creates the whole fabric of the universe, no matter what you believe, it's almost as if that piece of the universe has given you a beautiful tool, a paintbrush, to design the reality that you want to live in as long as you know how to use it. Anybody can paint a picture, but it takes somebody very skilled in using a paintbrush to make it a true piece of art. And all of us are capable of doing that. So, anger, that's the biggest one for me, the hardest one that I've had to try and overcome those feelings. But you can do it. It is possible, and I encourage you to practice this. Journaling every day will help you get better at this. If you can journal your thoughts and feelings throughout the day, and almost like I like to do a scaled system where how I'm feeling throughout the day on a scale of 1 to 10. And when you can do that, you allow yourself to visualize over the course of time to see how things, feelings, and people around you are impacting that in your everyday life. The last one is fear. Okay? So, an example of fear for me of something that I've had to overcome was the fear of flying. I really don't like flying. I've never been a big fan of flying. But what I eventually had to do is that I had to realize like I can't go my whole life without flying. There's times and places I need to be, so I need to overcome this fear. How do I do it? It took me getting on the plane, going to take off, being on the plane, being in the heart of anxiety and fear, and I closed my eyes and I imagined the worst case scenario, the plane actually crashing. The worst thing that could happen, the plane crashing. And what I did is, as I visualized that, I visualized myself remaining calm, being in the moment. Now, why do I do that? Because there's nothing that you can do to change that situation. There's nothing you can do to change the outcome of a situation like that. If somebody's going to shoot you while they're mugging you, that's going to happen. No matter how much you like to think you're in the control of the situation, you are not. And when you can realize that, you can let go of that. And when you let go of that, you're liberating your mind from fear. Existential circumstances are out of your control. Internal circumstances, what you do, think, and feel for yourself, that is controllable. You don't have to allow those emotions and thoughts to control your life. And the fact that you do right now is why you feel the things that you feel. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't feel them or that you should beat yourself up for feeling them. We're all human. It's allowed to have experience, it's allowed to have emotion. That's what makes us the beautiful things that we are. But again, thoughts, feelings, emotions, all beautiful things, but they are merely the paintbrush that you have been given. What are you going to do with them? What are you going to do in your next relationship when things don't go the way that you want them to? What are you going to do the next time that somebody gets in your face and starts getting mad at you, or a family member doesn't agree with you because of your view on politics? How are you going to handle that situation? Are you going to feed into it and allow it to become a problem and allow it to impact your life every day? And every time you see that person, you're just going to have the same conversation and have the same argument over and over again? Okay? And why are we choosing to let go of that? And what comes out of that? How does this actually help us? When you are able to do these things for yourself, right, you're liberating your mind. That's what the Buddha talks about, and that's even what Jesus Christ talks about. So, what's the important piece here? The important piece is that you are realizing that you are a free thinker in charge of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, almost as if they're a weapon, right? If you think about those three things as a weapon, and Even in today's society, you have to have, a concealed carry permit to hold a weapon. In some states, you have more restrictions, whatever. It's just an analogy, right? But we have to have special permission. We have to have training to use firearms, just like we need to do with our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. It's true for every one of us. And what you can do is, if you allow yourself to become in control of those thoughts, feelings, and emotions, then you realize that the other people on the other end of you are not in control. They have not had the same level of awareness and self realization that you have. That doesn't make you better than them. That doesn't mean that you should act better than them. But what that does allow you to do is it provides you with an opportunity to have love and grace, because they are not seeing things from that point of view. Allow yourself to be compassionate, because what do you think it must feel like to live in that kind of mindset of somebody that would just walk up to you and start an argument for no reason, or just because you don't agree with their political views, they want to start an argument, or your religious views, what have you. Any conversation that leads into an argument. What would it take for you to be that hostile to somebody else? Think about that realistically. What would it take for you to go up to somebody, maybe even somebody you don't know, and really start an argument or get in on them without provocation? Probably take a lot. So if somebody is doing that to you, put yourself in their shoes. Have grace. What do you think that person is experiencing in their life that is allowing them to be so um, blocked and so angry? That must be horrible. And that is the definition of being in your own personal hell. If you think about, or if you've read any of the Buddhist traditions about heaven and hell, it's more of a mindset than it is a place. You create your own personal heaven or hell by your thought patterns and what you believe. Your thoughts are what you become. Buddha said that. That's a powerful saying. You are what your thoughts are. And if you can harness that and think about what that really means, then every day when you're walking about and talking to people, you can have the ability to control your reaction. You can have grace and love in every moment if you want. And what would that do to other people surrounding you? Your family, your friends, your coworkers? If you can display that kind of emotion in any situation, almost like a monk, right? Or a priest. Doesn't mean you have to be either one of those. But if you can have that same level of grace, because we're all capable of it, that is what can change the world. That is the mindset that we need to harness to love each other. Because here's the reality: whether you control your thoughts or not, and whether you think that you're involved or not, the reality is that we're all living on this planet together. We're all living as human beings. Not any one person is more human than the other. I am not more human than any of you, and you're not more human than me. Donald Trump is not more human than anyone else. They're just human beings. And what that means is that we're all struggling every day. We're facing the same problems every day together. And if we can let go of those feelings and let go of judgment, we provide an opportunity for our fellow man and woman alike around us with the opportunity and the potential to become grace and love and joy all the time. Picture that for yourself. What would a world with no judgment look like? A world where no one cared what the color of your skin was? A world that no one cared what sexuality preference you had? A world where no one cared what you dressed or looked like? Is that not possible? If you think that it's not possible, then I would ask you to go read the history books and look at all of the change we've had in life, even as it is. It's slow. But the point I want to bring home is that for us to live together in harmony, it would take a miracle, wouldn't it? A true act, a true miracle to bring us all together. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the point is for us to perform a miracle, to have heaven brought down to earth, for us to live in harmony together. I believe that that's possible. I believe that we're all capable of that. But it starts with loving yourself first and honoring yourself. Not being selfish, but honoring yourself, honoring your virtues, honoring your beliefs, and honoring your thought patterns and beliefs. Holding those true, even in the face of anger, fear, and oppression, holding those true, letting go of the negative belief patterns, even if people around you are being negative, and loving every single person as much as you love yourself. That's the key. So, those are the topics I wanted to cover for today. I appreciate everybody watching. Now, I'll open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them. If you haven't listened to my podcast already, it's Hermit Radio. You can find it pretty much on everywhere that there is podcasts. And I just wanted to really thank anybody that's listened to it and has been following the whole time. For me, I'll talk about a little bit about myself if you don't know much about me or my story. I was in the military for a long time, and when I came back from Afghanistan, I had PTSD, and I pretty much lied to myself about it, about having it, and about the problems I was facing. And after many years of pretty much torturing myself and being afraid of what other people thought, I I finally one day, and I tried therapy and I tried medications, and it never seemed to really work for me. Um, and so, what really did end up working for me was I started meditating. I started reading books on Buddhism and spirituality. And the general consensus thought that I kept running into was being the master of your thoughts and feelings. And when I started to practice these things, it really turned my life around. It really enlightened me to who I was really and to who all of the people on this planet are. And I think that we're so meant for so much more. We're capable. Think about all the negative things that we have done as humans, right? All of it. I won't even repeat any because you can think of 10 for yourself. But if we're capable of that much evil, if we're capable of that much destruction, that means that we're also capable of that much love and joy and compassion. All it takes is for enough people to realize it within themselves and to let that wake up. But again, everyone has their own path. I can't help liberate any one person. I can't do it for any one person. I could do it for myself. And upon that realization, the only thing that was left for me to do was to realize that I could help other people, not do it for them. So that's the point of this podcast. And I'm in the process of writing a book, and I'll keep everybody updated on that. Um, I really want to help the world change. I've seen the very worst in people. I've seen what we're capable of, but I've also seen the best in people. I've also seen what we're fundamentally capable of when we want to be good and when we choose to do good. And that means all of you, every one of you watching, you have that same potential inside you. And you have the potential for change too. If you're stuck in anxiety, fear, and depression right now, I'm telling you, you don't have to be. There are things you can do to change, and you can take your life back. Let go of judgment, let go of anger, let go of fear. You do those things, and you'll be on your path to liberation. But if no one has any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the stream here. Thank you again for watching, everybody. This has been Hermit Radio, and I'm your host, Cameron. We'll catch you on the next one.